Good morning from beautiful Odenton, Maryland. Welcome to Ark and Dove Presbyterian Church. I'm Brian Boudreau, the clerk of session at Ark and Dove, and your host here in the lobby. Thank you for joining us today. I have a special guest, Stephen Price-Gibson, who will tell us about communion because we've had lots of questions on how to properly do it at home. But first, let's get to our announcements. Today is Pentecost Sunday. What does that mean? It's the birthday of the church. We will be celebrating communion, so get your bread and wine or grape juice ready. And during the service, watch for the many symbols of the church, the colors of the burning flames, and of course, the dove. Each week, we are getting new information from the governor and county executive about the reopening. At this point, Ark and Dove is still only doing live streaming service until we are ready to safely open our doors again. And plans are underway, which is why we need your help. This session will be starting to have listening sessions to discuss the reopening of the church and what that will look like. Information will flow in all directions. We will learn what the issues are, and we will share suggestions and concerns. So be on the lookout for invitations for Zoom calls. This is your chance to share your concerns and have an impact about how Ark and Dove begins to reconvene in person. If you or a family member recently graduated from high school, undergrad, or grad school, let us know. We want to celebrate your achievements, especially under these circumstances. So you can send an email to admin@arkandove.org with the graduate's name, their school, and if applicable, degree. Graduates will be included in the prayer list and formally acknowledged and celebrated on June 21st. Now, how would you like your child to be part of service in June? We would love the children to present music in June during our online worship. We'll be singing a short version of Jesus Loves Me, and Ryan Stavely and Margaret will be working to put it together. So if you'd like to participate, you'll need earphones and headphones, a device for the children to sing along with, and a device to record them singing. So please email Margaret at her email, which you can find on the screen or on the webpage. As we move into summer, yes, it's right around the corner, Ark and Dove will be offering a virtual summer Bible club for kids, kindergarten through 5th grade. The theme will be On Earth as in Heaven, and it will last 5 weeks. The program invites children and adults to re-experience the Lord's Prayer and to see the connections between prayer and service in the world. There will be a combination of online, family, and Zoom activities. So if you love cooking, crafting, playing games, or seeing friends online, Summer Bible Club is for you. So for more information, contact Christina Nelson or Linda Lewis to sign up. There are also many activities for adults. First, you can attend Equipping the Saints this Wednesday, June 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Our own Pat Devers will help us delve into the concept of structured decision-making to better equip leadership at Ark and Dove to make good and effective decisions that align with our core values and accomplish objectives. We're also still looking for selfies from everybody. We miss seeing you in church, so please submit your selfies of you and your families. We can share those during worship. So we especially love seeing how you are worshiping in front of the TV, in your jammies, on the phone, however. So please send your photos to admin@arkandove.org or to selfie@arkandove.org. Now, if you watch the news at all, it is impossible to overlook all the social strife out there. Maybe you are wondering what you can do about that. Well, Showing Up for Racial Justice Annapolis and the Anne Arundel chapter will be offering a virtual workshop, Calling In, Calling Out, on Tuesday, June 2nd from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. This is a free 2-hour virtual workshop designed to increase participants' ability to have conversations around race and racism. We will identify opportunities for calling in, define white fragility, and discuss how to navigate and learn tactics to address common microaggressions and racist statements. So any questions you might have, you can contact Linny Gerdner via phone or email address. Your generosity has been really great. You can still donate online to Samaritans today. and fund the streaming services by texting your donation, 410-983-3481. You just text the amount and followed by the words Good Sam or stream to support it. It's that easy. And what do your contributions do? Well, the streaming services fund support the Zoom and live stream services that we do every week. We've purchased new cameras, soundboards, computer, to be able to provide you with the best experience possible. So please consider donating today. Now, we have a very special guest with us today, one of our Parish Associates, Stephen Price-Gibson. He will talk to us about the communion ceremony, its symbolism, and how we can do it properly from our homes. Thank you for joining us today, Stephen. We're glad you're here. And how are you and your wife, Caroline, doing these days?
We're doing very well, thank you. Appreciate you asking. Caroline and I usually take a walk between 3 and 4 miles early in the morning. And one of the great pleasures that we've experienced is the several times that people from Ark and Dove have passed us and greeted us. And it's really been wonderful to feel that link to the church family.
Yeah. I've actually seen you walking a couple times from a distance as I was walking my dog, and I've never been able to catch up to you. So yeah, that's really, you guys are really fast. Very good. So you're a retired pastor, now affiliated with Ark and Dove. Tell us what brought you to Maryland and to Ark and Dove.
Well, Caroline and I were both pastors of separate congregations in Nebraska at the time that we both arrived at the age for retirement. And it so happened by that point in our family life cycle, we have 2 adult sons. One of them was living in Annapolis and the other in Falls Church, Virginia. And Odenton happened to be the place between Annapolis and Falls Church that we found a wonderful place to live and settle into.
Well, we are so glad that you found it. You've been such a wonderful addition to our church. So you and Caroline have just done so many great things with us. So how would you describe quickly what that role of parish associate is? I see it on the back of the bulletin every week, but I don't know if it's ever been explained to us.
Well, parish associate is something that might exist in other churches, but that's the name we use for the special relationship that retired clergy, or perhaps clergy in non-parish roles, such as chaplains, will establish with the local congregation wherever they happen to be living. Caroline and I didn't know, and it was an incredible blessing to learn that the local Presbyterian church was Ark and Dove. And a parish associate has 2 primary responsibilities. The first is to keep out from underfoot and not cause any problems for the current pastor or other members of the staff. And the second is, when possible, to be available to chip in and help in ways that will further the ministry of the congregation. I have been teaching some classes from time to time. Caroline has preached for the congregation one time. As other things come up, we'll be doing things as either the pastors or session ask us and give us direction.
Oh, that's great. So having served as a pastor, you obviously have a lot of experience with communion, which we will be partaking in today. So can you give us just a little background as to why we do communion, maybe starting with the origin of the sacrament in the first place?
Well, the origin of the Lord's Supper is in the Last Supper. That's the event that we particularly remember on Maundy Thursday. It is the event where there was a meal with Jesus and his disciples, his last meal with them. Jesus used bread and wine at that meal for 2 main reasons. One was to connect it with the Passover meal, and thereby to reaffirm that the God who would raise him from the dead is the God who brought Israel out of Egypt from slavery to freedom. And the other reason he used it was he wanted those to be the means by which further meals would be celebrated. And he said, do this in remembrance of me. So we do it in remembrance.
So what are the important sort of aspects of communion then that we should all understand, especially as we start framing that on taking communion from home?
Well, perhaps the most important thing to understand is that it isn't primarily about understanding at all. Communion is about presence. At the time of the Reformation in the 1500s, the churches disagreed about the way that Jesus was really present in the sacrament. But one thing they did agree on was that Jesus is really present with us when we celebrate communion. Jesus gave us the sacrament as the way for us to be nurtured by his living presence. It's not a symbol or a reminder of Jesus at all. Jesus is our host at the table. It's not a sermon in ritual. It's not a memory prompt. We are remembered as members of the church, his body, with Christ. We are reincorporated into the body as we incorporate the bread and wine into our bodies. The best analogy I can give is when I was a very little child and visited my grandmother, sometimes she would invite me to go with her to the store or go with her to the bank and eat with her at the kitchen table. And she didn't explain nutrition or finance to me. What was great was that she wanted me along and fed me. And that filled me with her love and built me into a multi-generational family. In the church, we get sermons and classes and ministries to learn and do the things that are part of discipleship. But what gives us the energy and the love to put Christ's teachings into action, to witness for love, to cry out for justice, is that Christ is with us. And Jesus gave us the sacrament of the Lord's Supper, communion, to be fed by his real presence again and again. And especially, as it says in the book of Esther, for such a time as this.
So then how do I, doing communion from home, do this correctly? What do I need?
Well, the pandemic has certainly made it hard for the church family to gather in one place. But new technology is giving us ways to remember ourselves. The Presbyterian Church is trusting that the Lord of all times and spaces can unite us, even when we must be apart. Online worship is real worship, and online communion can be real communion.
So does it matter like what type of bread I use? You know, I've got some pita bread right here, but what about crackers or cookies?
Well, it's above my pay grade to say what the Lord does or doesn't bless. But tradition was important to Jesus. He wanted us to make the connection with the Passover and our Jewish roots. And he gave us the bread and the juice of the grape, whether fermented or not. And my hesitation about moving away from those elements is that it puts a layer of symbolic interpretation between us and the Jesus who promised his real presence to be with us as we eat the bread and drink the wine together. But I wouldn't want to say too much, because the whole point of communion is not the Lord's message, but the Lord's presence.
The Lord's presence. That's a very good point. So I've also got here some wine, some grape juice. You know, is there a right answer to that? I've heard any liquid will work. Is that true?
I don't think we have the time to explore the multiple volumes that have been written in many languages over time concerning the nuances and details of the service. But I'll say this, in the Presbyterian Church, we're absolutely certain that whether fermented or unfermented, the juice of the grape is entirely in order.
Well, So there you have it. Stephen has explained it to us for what communion is and how we can do it as best we can from home. And the important message there that it's to remember and the presence of Jesus Christ. So thank you, Stephen, for enlightening us on this very broad topic. I think we could probably talk hours about this, maybe even days. So it's a pleasure having you.
It's been very good to be with you. And we're very thankful that Ark and Dove was here for us to find as our church home.
It was meant to be. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in with us today. As always, it's a great pleasure to be a part of your Sunday morning. The live streaming service will begin momentarily. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you next Sunday.